Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Hampden Town Council meeting of September 4th, 2018. Would you please join me now in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, and thank all of you out there for joining us. The first item is the consent agenda. Do I have any questions on it?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor? Thank you. At this time, the floor is open for any public comments. The public comments are for anything that is not on the agenda tonight. Please come up, state your name and where you live, please, and make sure the green button is on so everyone at home can hear you.
Thank you. Eric Jarvie, 10 Sophie Lane. I would like to remind the council members that as part of the Finance and Administration Committee agenda, there's been an ongoing item for council rules overview. I have served for 8 years on the American Pharmacists Association House of Delegates, and I've served for 13 years on the American Association of Colleges of Pharmacy House of Delegates, so I think I know something about Robert's rules, and I would ask that as the committee considers their deliberations over council rules, I have 3 specific items that I hope they would consider. Number 1 is that the Robert's Rules of Order, newly revised 11th edition, states that the minutes are a record of what was done at a meeting, not a record of what was said. I will remind the council members that our last council meeting were 7 pages of minutes. That takes staff time, and I'm sure that staff time can be better spent doing other things. Item number 2, I think a part of the procedure should allow that initially there should be a motion to approve the agenda before the council. To get something on the agenda, it should be adopted at the start of the meeting and not later on in the meeting, as was done on 8/20, to consider receipt of snowmobile club trail grant funds. And by the way, the addition of agenda item under Robert's Rules typically requires 2/3 vote of those present, which would be 5 council members. And lastly, as a matter of procedure, I believe that a new business item should not be voted on during the meeting when it was presented. Why do I believe this? This would allow council members time to thoroughly deliberate that new business item, and where needed, poll their constituency, which I believe is very important, on how they should vote. And you don't have that opportunity when you have to vote on a new business item at the meeting it was presented. Specifically, the authorization for expenditure for the police cruiser reserve account. Again, as proposed from the Finance and Administration Committee. Now, I do realize that there are items that do come up for new business, but if those items are, in fact, delivered as part of the report, Robert's Rules allows for a motion as part of the report. It does not require a second, and that motion can be acted on as part of the report and not under new business. If it truly must be acted on, it could be, again, a deliberation, or the council could vote to waive the procedure and waive the rules so that this new business item could be considered at that particular time. Thank you.
Thank you, Eric. Anyone else have anything to bring up before? All right, being none, policy agenda, news presentations and awards. We do have a proclamation tonight. This is coming from the council, and this is for childhood cancer, and it reads: the state of Maine is going gold in the month of September from this year forth in support of childhood cancer awareness. Whereas cancer is a leading cause of death by disease among U.S. children and is detected in more than 15,000 of our country's sons and daughters every year, and whereas in the state of Maine, cancer affects more than 50 new children and families annually, where more than 400 children are undergoing treatment currently, and where we are ranked in the top range of incidences of all cancers at 468.3 per 100,000 people. And whereas September is nationally recognized as Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and whereas, thanks to ongoing advances in research and treatment, the 5-year survival rate for all childhood cancers has climbed from less than 50% to 80% over the last several decades. And whereas innovative studies are leading to real breakthroughs, reminding us of the importance of supporting scientific discovery and moving closer to finding cures, through much work remains to be done, and whereas 1 in 5 children diagnosed will not survive. During National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, we remember that many children who have been taken from us too soon, and we extend our support to all those who continue to battle this illness with incredible strength and courage. Now, therefore, as mayor of the town of Hampden, I, Ivan McPike, proclaim that the town of Hampden will help Maine go gold in support of Team Haley Hugs and all of the children and families affected by childhood cancer. In doing so, from this day forward, we will recognize September as Maine Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. This is our way of paying tribute to the families, friends, professionals, and communities who lend their strength to children fighting pediatric cancer. Signed on this 4th day of September by myself as mayor. Thank you very much for bearing with me with that, and hope that that continues on and goes well. Our next item is new business. Item A, council will refer to public hearing for September 17th, the proposed ordinance authorizing appropriation and borrowing of funds to finance installation of a water main to the Business and Commons Park to provide a fire suppression throughout the issuance of general obligation bonds or notes of the town of Hampden, which may be callable in a principal amount not to exceed $500,000. I would accept the motion on that.
So moved.
You turned it off.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Do we have any discussion on this?
I think it would be good for viewers at home who aren't here and haven't been through the discussion in the Finance Committee meeting that we at least get to the gist of what this is about and why. And I'll launch that very simply by saying the town of Hampden, starting many years ago, before this council was in office, was looking to the property off 202 in partnership with Bouchard to develop that as part of the economic growth of the town of Hampden. That's now referred to as the Hampden Business Park. It's partially occupied. The lots are marketed by Epstein's, and there is a significant business deal on the table with the merger of more than one lot in the company of F.W. Webb. As this has grown and the actual needs of F.W. Webb were more carefully considered, it was realized that the current water capacity to the business park, and I'll also add in their ammo park, is insufficient for fire suppression for that scope of a business. And so the proposal on the table is to figure out how do we support the continuing economic growth of the town of Hampden, specifically in terms of meeting the needs of a business wishing to locate and develop in part of this park. And again, typically, I think it's standard practice that after careful consideration, it's a municipal role to develop infrastructure, to fine-tune zoning, to manage growth in those means. And if that's done correctly, the private side under our economy kicks in with investments, part of which are later returned to the town in the form of tax revenue through property taxes and business taxes. This situation evolved fairly rapidly and recently. It's an ongoing project right now to nail down more accurate details in terms of the scope of work and actual cost. But during the finance meeting, I believe it was unanimous on the part of your council to support this going forward. It was not unanimous. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. It was a vote of 5-1. And then I'll open the floor for any additional comments or explanation.
I think it was Sargent's that we did
Thank
that
you.
with, but that was the only thing I caught.
It's just the most recent example of my inability to accurately recall names, which I will confess to any and all anytime you wish. Thank you.
I want to give credit to the right organization because
Chip.
with a project this size and a warehouse of this size, I mean, it also stands to reason that this is going to bring quite a few jobs to the Hampden area. So the taxes, the additional jobs, the additional infrastructure, that's all a positive thing. So I don't have anything to add. Other than that, I think Councilor Marble covered it pretty well.
Is there anyone else in the council who would like to explain any more about what this is about? Town manager, is there anything you'd like to say about it?
No, I appreciate Councilor Marble's comments and those echoed by Councilor Wild. It is a business and economic development initiative, and I do recommend that the town consider moving forward with the installation of infrastructure to support the growth and development of the business park and the ammo park. And it is very much a work in progress with several partners, including the Water District and the Sargent Corporation. So by the 17th, our goal is to have a very real estimate to drive the bond number that we're asking for borrowing authority for this evening.
Thank you. Those of us who were here years ago and watched the business park first be developed did not expect that we would probably end up into an industrial park. And this is our first diving into that, and I think this is definitely the right move to support Sargent and support that park and hopefully grow from there. So with that, I have a motion and a second. All of those in favor? What's that? Oh, sure. Any public comment? Okay. Then I'll ask again. All of those in favor? Opposed? 5-1. Okay, thank you. The next item is the council award of a contract for Department of Public Works Truck Number 32 replacement to Whitehead Ford and authorization for the expenditure of $44,235 from Department of Public Works Equipment Reserve Account Number 3-717-00 for its purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Any public comment on this? Just like to state that this is comes out of reserve account. It's already been put in the budget, so it's just a matter of us doing our work diligently. Any councilors have any question on this? With none, all those in favor? Opposed? No. Good. Okay, the next item is the council award of a contract for Department of Public Works Truck Number 35, replacement to Whitehead Ford, and authorization for the expenditure of $44,235 from the Department of Public Works Equipment Reserve Account 3-717-00 for its purchase.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded. Any public comment? Again, this is comes out of the reserve account, replacing trucks that we went through during our budgeting time period, and these plow trucks and are also used at other times, and they're coming completely, with this price, completely fitted out with plows and sanders. Being that said, all of those in favor? Opposed? Very good. Believe it or not, that's the big agenda. We're now going to go into committee reports. David, I don't think you've met. You're meeting tomorrow night?
Right, Planning and Development hasn't met since the last council meeting. We will meet tomorrow night at 6 o'clock.
Dennis, services?
Same thing for services, and our next meeting is next Monday night at 6.
6. Mark?
Thank you. The Infrastructure Committee met on August 27th. New business, we had discussion regarding a need for improved water supply, which we've discussed tonight. We didn't come out of that with any numbers. Staff updates, Mayo Road Code complaint. A letter was sent by certified mail. There was no response at that time. Mold remediation project at the municipal building, hopefully done by September 28th. And the status of Schoolhouse Lane. Engineering due in mid-September, review and approve by mid-October. Bid November, December timeframe, construction spring 2019. That's it, thank you.
Thank you, Mark. Terry, Finance?
Yep, the items that we had on the Finance and Administration Committee have just been dealt with. Thank you very much.
Thank you. At this time, Manager's report?
Mr. Mayor, members of council, you have in front of you a copy of the monthly manager's report. I'll just summarize it briefly for the public. It includes the letter that was sent. It's part of the correspondence that's included in the packet online, and it was included in your packet for this evening, that addresses the town's response to the Bureau of Labor Standards surprise inspection of our facilities back in June. By and large, the reports came back indicating that all the facilities were safe, well-managed, well-maintained. There was a handful of missing plans, safety plans, that weren't actually either available at the time that the person showed up to do the inspection, because, again, it was unannounced at a time when we had several staff on vacation. And at any rate, those plans have been found and submitted. A couple of the plans hadn't been exercised or fully trained by some of the part-time staff. That's being done now. In summary, it was a really good inspection that did result in several reports of deficiencies that we're addressing, and we have until the middle of September to do that, and we've reached out to the state to set up meetings per their letters. So that's just an FYI for you. The RFQ for the municipal property here, the post office, the pool site, is on the street. It's on our website. We've been advertising for proposals to be submitted. We have a pre-proposal submission meeting scheduled for this week, Thursday, at 3 p.m. in this room. For anyone who's interested in submitting a proposal, they can come in. We're going to have our staff, and we'll also have the on-call consultant, Woodard & Kern, who did a significant amount of previous work, site design work, concept work. They'll be here to answer questions about the RFQ. They're not going to be submitting to do the work for the permitting, but they are our on-call consultants. So they'll be assisting me and Sean and Shelley in answering any questions that other prospective consultants might have. We received a note from, a formal notice really, a letter from Casella indicating that due to the changes in recyclables, marketability, and profitability, the current agreement that we have with them provides for a 30-day notice where they can change the terms of the service they provide in taking our recyclables from the transfer station. That's going to change from $0 to $140 a ton. So staff is looking at options. We're working with MRC. I'll have more to report back to you by the next council meeting on what we're going to recommend we do in the form of practices to avoid having to pay upwards of nearly $1,000 a week based on the number of trips and tons that they're currently taking out of the transfer station now. And that's just recyclables. That's not municipal solid waste. That's just an FYI for you. And then we've talked at length already about the fire suppression project I've been spending a lot of time on. I'd be happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Town Clerk, is there anything we need to sign and do tonight? Okay. With that, council's comments. David?
No comment?
Dennis?
Yep, this one may have been building for a while, Ivan, I don't know, and I don't have anything prepared, so bear with me for a minute.
Okay.
Being retired and having a fairly flexible schedule, I found myself watching the Judge Kavanaugh hearing proceedings on CNN today. For those of you who saw it, you saw some demonstrations, you saw a pretty strict alignment with party line orientation to how this hearing was going to go. The biggest single takeaway I had and the biggest single concern I have is that the process, which is supposed to reflect our constitutional values and vet a very important position for the benefit of all of us as a whole, to me came down to more of a production about our current president, more so than the merits of the candidate for the Supreme Court. And I think that says a whole lot. We in this town have some fairly divided politics at time, and I was thinking about Hampden, in which I've only lived since 2010, in light of changes going on locally and nationally, and a lot of fear-based anger going on everywhere. And I'm just trying to figure out, how do I feel about this community and what do I see? I had a conversation 3 days ago with a constituent who was considering running for public office. She's even newer to town than I am. And has had a lot of experience in various professions and has lived in various places around the country. And I just wanted to share what I found myself saying to her in response to whether or not I thought she should, go ahead and run for this office, and what did I think about the town. And what I found myself saying to her was, we've got our problems like everybody else, and you could articulate a concerning line about how this town is divided from sort of people who have lived here multiple generations, tend to live in the more rural parts of town, who are conservative and independent by nature, and may be resistant to change, versus all of the younger, not always younger, because God, I'm not, but the professionals who have moved in and made this a community supporting their lifestyle while most of them work in Bangor. And I thought that if I were living in a rural area, fourth generation Hampden resident, I might resent a lot that comes with this influx of other people into town and its growth. And with that growth is coming increased costs, and with that, those costs are coming increased taxes. But the bottom line of all of this, and I think it's epitomized most of the time at least by this council, is that I'm optimistic as hell about this town. I think this town just has so much going for it that if we can all collectively keep our eyes on the collective good, we're going to help lead this town to be even better than it is now. We've got a resource in the river. We've got a great school system. We've got beautiful country. We've got people here who can remind us of the history of the town and appreciate what that is. And we have other people coming in, seeing this town for the first time and liking what they see. So I'm just saying all this to say I hope we continue as a council, as we have been. I think the conversation about council rules is going to be a productive one. I very much appreciate what Eric Charvey brought in terms of comments tonight. It makes sense to me and resonates, and we can always stop and take a look at how we're proceeding. And with that, I'll stop talking, Mr. Mayor, and say good night.
Stephen, you want to follow up?
Briefly. A lot of what you said does make an awful lot of sense, Councilor Marble. If we can all be able to sit at the table and put our ideas, our thoughts, and what we have going on in the town all on the table at once, and be able to articulate what we think is best for the town in a productive conversation, which we, for the most part, have been able to do here in the last recent years. Yeah, we sure headbutt. We sure do. Even Dennis and I headbutt, but at least we can have a conversation. I respect his beliefs and his ideas, and I hope he does respect mine. I think he does. And I think a lot of us here on the council do the same thing. It's unfortunate sometimes we have large tax increases and stuff, but the fact of the matter is that things are getting more expensive, and we're not blind to that. So hopefully, we can continue to work in a productive manner that way. And I want to thank Eric Jarvie for being here tonight. It's, very, it's a breath of fresh air to see someone coming on a regular basis like this. Thank you.
Mark?
No comment.
Councilor McAvoy?
Yeah, I just want to urge everybody to enjoy this beautiful weather we're having and have been having, and to shop local and buy American. Good night, Hampden.
My only comment is I thought I might have a record-setting meeting tonight in the time period until Dennis got a hold of the microphone, followed by Stephen, and that went down the tubes. But with that, I have no comment. And with that, I will call the meeting adjourned. Thank you.
Sorry, Mayor.
We like to talk. What can we say?